Hey everyone, I wanted to make a video for all of you today talking about the skill of listening, especially when you're coming into calls and when whoever you're working with, when you're really pepped up or hyped up and you're looking for immediate answers and you've been stuck for a really long time and maybe you just, quit your job and you've been housebound or any of those situations, and why it's so important to practice the skill of listening, which is something I was incredibly poor at because I always wanted to state my opinion. I had really strong conditional self-acceptance in many ways about my opinion. I never wanted to actually practice listening to people. Sorry, I had to make sure I'm not going to get hit by a car. And so that was something I really wanted to work at and something I really wanted to practice. So I had to put myself in situations where I had to wear the urge to prove people wrong. I had to work on the situation of not needing to be right all the time. And these are all the little things that came together to work on my listening skills. And listening skills can also be used incorrectly. I think many people will hold listening skills in a very conditional manner. Will they be like, if you're not a good listener, then you're a stupid person, et cetera, et cetera. And then that's where, people learn things and they do things. This was probably my biggest struggle in life, learning and doing things to hold that over people's heads. Not really because you want to get better at that from a self-mastery perspective and a stoic perspective. So before I go any further, please subscribe, hit that like button down below. Like I said on my last walking video, the leaves are starting to change here. The aspens are gorgeous when you live in Colorado and you drive out to the mountains. You get to see those changes. It's really cool. So, and if you're interested in our coaching services, please look out for that WhatsApp link. We've been working on that still. If that's not there, please email phil@ocdrecovery.com and we will get back to you in a timely fashion. And next time I think I might choose a different road where it's not so loud, but we'll work on that the next time. Jesus, some of these grasshoppers are humongous. Okay, so what do we know about things that people do when they come on coaching calls? And I'm going to use myself as an example. Well, most people that come to us, not most, not the right word, but many have watched many other pieces of content on recovery, and maybe they've watched our stuff and they said, wow, these people know something that maybe other people don't because they've lived the experience. But then many people come into question and challenge. I was one of these people myself, and that could be anything from OCD content to financial information to habits, morning routines, sleep routines, and stuff like that. So people really don't like having what's up, guys? People really don't like having their knowledge tested. So one of the biggest things I've worked on in my life is, I call it a stress test. I got this from Ray Dalio, who Rob and I really like. And if someone is stress testing one of my ideas, the first thing I do is I try to see it from their point of view in a non-biased perspective, which takes active listening, which was really hard for me. And then, hey bud, look at him up there. Oh, this one's a noisy video, guys. Sorry about that. I never do it in the middle of the day like this. And I listen to people's comments, and then I go back and forth and I think about, is there anything I could potentially change in my perspectives? I'll give you an example. I have a good friend of mine. We were a hiking friend. He was saying some stuff about my career and I didn't particularly like it. And other people around me thought it was very abrasive how he was asking it. But what I did was I sat down, tried to see it from his point of view. And then I said, you know what, maybe he is onto something. And I've actually used that for to test my own career path. I thought that was a really cool thing. I would have never done that in the past because people don't like having their identities or their beliefs challenged, especially on the big three. I always say money, politics, and religion. Those are the topics that people tend to not want to admit that they could be wrong, or maybe they've been seeing something wrong their whole life. If you have a view of Christianity, most people who believe in Christianity would never want their idea or their self threatened. It's the same thing like a bodybuilder or a sports athlete. It's why people get so upset when you bring this stuff up. But one of the most important things about life is your listening skills. And again, that's where acceptance doesn't mean agreement comes in, where you don't actually have to agree with what people are saying. You can accept them for their positions, but I do think it is a good skill to listen to other people just in case you could be wrong on something. But that takes a level of thinking that I really didn't even know existed. I mean, until I got OCD, I didn't really spend a lot of time in thought. I just did things, and I was very good at actionable steps. I was horrible with the consistency of the same steps. I changed steps up a lot. So it was very similar to building a house, changing up the blueprint of the house all the time so the house never gets off the ground. That was a great thing I got from a financial podcast. If you're always trying to change your metrics on something, the house would collapse because you're always changing the measurements. 1 foot is now 1 foot equals 3 feet, 3 feet equals 9 feet. So, but I never thought deeply about really anything. I had some good self-awareness, but I never spent time thinking about my self-awareness. And that came from from getting better at listening. So like Rob specifically on the calls, I was one of the people that was very difficult to work with because I was I had very bad like animosity towards my actual suffering. So I was very angry all the time, and I would hang up on Rob, and I'm telling you, I was really a difficult case. I haven't even worked with too many people that have exactly what I have, where people, where the individual is actually hanging up on me, or they're in a really bad spot. I did that quite often. So from an anger and animosity perspective, I was probably quite tough to work with. Thankfully, I changed that behavior because it was really hindering my life. So, and then Rob felt like he had to walk. He wouldn't use these terminologies because people use them, I think, incorrectly. But because, I feel like I'm walking on eggshells, and then people are trying to change the other people. But Rob probably did have a feeling of hesitancy when he was working with me in the beginning, because, if you yell at someone 10 times in the call, what are the chances of that person yelling at you the 11th time? Well, it's a 100% ratio of 10 to 10 calls and be yelling. So it makes sense on why he would think that. And then what I did one day was, after a couple years, I said to myself, and I had already been working and doing coaching a lot, but I still had some of these tendencies I wanted to work on. I said, look, I don't want to be the individual that when Rob makes a suggestion in my life, even if I disagree with his suggestion, I always want to be open-minded to listening to his suggestion. And that was a trait I was really, really determined to change. And I had to change that in my relationship. I had to change that with my coworkers. I had to change it with my parents, with my mom, because I hadn't been working on this since my father passed. And my friends. A lot of my friends, we have very similar personality traits. And when we get into conversations, it can get very heated, especially over stupid shit, stuff that doesn't even matter. But you know how your best friends are. You guys argue over things that make literally no difference in your life. So these are all the ways I practically started to do that. But the number one, like I said, was the number one way I started to change was taking other people's opinions, thinking about them, because I would always say stuff, and I still can fall into this trap because I'm a human. Oh, why would I take advice from that person? They've never done what I've done. But that's not particularly always the case. I was with someone not that long ago, and they are not a business owner, and they were making points about, maybe you should try this. And it's very easy to go, this person's never owned a business, so they'll know what they're doing. But the advice that they were giving was actually quite sound and was a really good marketing idea. And I thought that was really cool. I would have never saw that before. Before, I would have just shut them down and not wanted to talk to them, et cetera, et cetera. It's very similar to how your judgment comes in. So if you have really poor listening skills and you're always just talking about why you're right and why everyone else is wrong, that comes into that automatic judging. And this is something that many people miss. The reason why my brain isn't automatically judging, this dog is like, oh, where you at, buddy? The reason why my brain isn't automatically judging people, say in the gym or in different podcasts and stuff like that, is because I no longer mind being wrong. So that was a humongous thing for me. And because I no longer mind being wrong, it doesn't matter if it doesn't matter if I am wrong. I dislike that because people don't like being wrong, just like they don't like having change. But I'm not overly concerned the fact where I'm like, oh my God, this is the worst thing ever. So that automatic judgment of people in the gym was a big one. They're stupid. They don't know what they're doing. They're warming up improperly. I can't tell you how many times I would judge people for doing a warm-up or something improperly because I wanted to prove them that they were right. And it doesn't even matter if you are right. This is something that stuck with me a while too, like Rob said. Being right or wrong is the small person's game. What's actually important is your ability to listen to other people, not need to prove them wrong, hear them out, and if needed, you don't even have to engage in the conversation. This is something that we all struggle with in today's world with so much information and so many people thinking they know everything. And I was one of these people. So yeah, this is just one of those things I wanted to talk about. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. A little bit bullet fashion stuff. And again, some of the summary takeaways are, put yourself in situations where you're starting to apply compassion and empathy a little bit better. Listen to your spouse as your boyfriend, your girlfriend. Listen to your parents. Put yourself in conversations that you naturally wouldn't. One of the ones that I did was very much politically based or economically based, since those are passions of mine, both of those. So I'd put myself in these situations with people who completely disagree with my worldview, and I would listen to them with the full content of not trying to change their opinion, which is something I never tried to do in the past. And I think when you think like that, it's not about changing the world, but you give yourself a better opportunity for people you're not going to be able to motivate anyone. People have to look at you and want to be motivated by you. And I think that's something that many people get wrong. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. And if you want to know more, phil at OCDrecovery.com, and we'll get back to you in timely fashion. And enjoy the rest of your day, guys.